Okay, we're going to get started now.
Looks like Nishit bhai is gone.
No, I'm here. I'm
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just getting into the meeting with the other phone, and then we will get live soon. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another broadcast on Hinduism. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the team from Hindu Academy. And today we will be running a session for about 45 to 50 minutes. And we will be discussing all the questions that you have got about Hinduism. And the focus topic for today is going to be why Hindus are ignoring the modern masters in favor of the old classic religious leaders. So to help us focus on this topic, we've got a little video, and what we're going to be doing is we'll play the little video, and then immediately we will go into a Q&A session around it, and then we will go on with the rest of the session. So while we get to watch the video, I will mute myself and then come back once we finish with the video. Frequently, we come across people in society who've got a knowledge of the religion or religious books, and they're fixed or fixated on the old ways of things as prescribed in those books, but they're not necessarily appropriate for today's age and time.
Correct.
So what annoys you about these people who are fixated on the old things?
Yes, again, you see, this is a sign of stodginess, inertia, tamas. Our society, look, with full reverence, I'm saying, our society has this problem. We have tremendous inertia, tamas in our system. That is why it's difficult for us to have to drag modern Hindu thinking youngsters from very antiquated vision to a modern vision. I struggle, but I keep doing it day and night. Why is it so important? Look, I'll give you an example. You see, suppose, the stories of Ramayana and the story of Mahabharata, because these wonderful characters called Ram and Krishna. Wonderful. I have no complaints. They are marvelous characters. But don't you recognize that over thousands of years, as these stories have been told and retold again and again, these characters have been polished up. They've been polished to a really perfection. So they look so pristine and pure and perfection in every sense.
Yes.
We think the ultimate, the spiritual kind of, masters should look like that, or should appear with 4 arms and, all the chakra and gada and all that. They've been polished to the ultimate, polarized it and polished it very highly over thousands of years. So we can't see them as ordinary human. We see them as completely, highly idealistic vision of humanity. So we are fixated on this. I don't blame you, because you already in a way polarized your idea of spirituality, or say Ram or Krishna. Wonderful. I have no problem. But I'm simply saying, remember, over thousands of years, we have really polished up their image to an incredible level. So we see them as real super personalities doing magic and miracles and all that. Yeah, we love all that. Now, see, suppose you find a modern giant, a spiritual giant. He doesn't exhibit any of those. I'll give you one example, cutting example. It's Ramana Maharshi. Okay? Look, I'm not here to promote Ramana Maharshi, cult movement or something, but here is a marvelous spiritual giant of our times. Does he have 4 arms? Does he have a huge movement, beating drum at his doorstep? Does he do magic and miracles? Nothing. Yet he's as masterful as any of the ancient prophets. But because he doesn't have this kind of polished image, and the Hindus love this polished image, they can't relate to him, so they kind of bypass him. They completely ignore him. This is frightening. Not only ignore him, there are some Hindus, kind of trumped up, the modern gurus, who will pass very demeaning very kind of belittling comments about people like Ramana Maharshi. Oh, he had insect coming out of his body. Damn it, this guy was fully charged. We couldn't even experience his body. So insects were kind of living off him. This shows the sign of a true spiritual giant. Instead of appreciating this, they say, oh, he had the insect coming out of his body. We don't want that, do we? Now, this kind of demeaning and kind of harsh comments, a trivializing comment about these great masters of modern times is very upsetting for me. I find it highly offensive. So, because we are fixated in the old, we think they almost have 4 arms and have the chakra and gada and all these kind of wonderful colors and all that. Then only they are superhuman. Modern superhuman sitting in front of our eyes, we can't appreciate. We can't really value. Why? Stodginess. We can't move from the old to the new. These new ones are perhaps much more suited for our own times. They talk in our own language, in our own times, and they are equally charged up, equal superhuman. I'm telling you, super personalities. They don't do magic. They don't need to do magic. It's a digression. So here you see them, and yet they are not valued. Why? Stodginess. They don't look like Krishna, and they don't have the miraculous power of Krishna. They don't need it. They are the best way to show miracles, not to produce any miracles. And these are the masterful personalities of modern times. Yet because we are stodgy, we are kind of stuck with in the rut. And this is like a drawback. It shows a tremendous inertia. We are not able. We are an evolving, living religion, and yet we don't want to show our living dimension. We want to be dead. Oh, this happened 5,000 years ago. You must hang on to it. And you must find proof of this. Look, there's a guy sitting in front of your eyes, and you say, no, ignore him. Go, let's go 5,000 back and do some digs. This is our problem.
Wonderful. And there you have it. So some food for thought on why we should be focusing on the modern spiritual giants of today. Jaybai has pointed out some of the examples. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite my panel of experts to discuss this topic, starting with Manishbhai. Manishbhai, if I can hand over to you for this section of the discussion.
Thank you, Nised Bhai. Namaste viewers. Thank you for joining us on YouTube and Facebook live session. Please send us your questions on any topics on Hinduism you have. So we start with this topic, very interesting one, that we Hindus seem to be stuck on this old personalities, Ram and Krishna, with this wonderful story. And we are not appreciating the modern spiritual giants. As Jaybai mentioned, he mentioned about Ramana Maharshi. How do we rectify this situation, Vijay Bhai?
You're on mute.
Vijay Bhai.
Thanks, Sita. Okay, this is a very interesting question because I think we have to be very careful here, because quite often, look, any religion which gets stuck eventually will wither away, and that's a fact. I mean, if you look at the Egyptian civilizations for lasted for 2,000 years, Sumer, we cannot do that. It's very important we keep that in mind. And I think the idea is that sometimes we make something, sometimes we don't doubt on reality. We get so much stuck on really old personalities. I mean, some of the TV programs like Vishwamitra and say, oh, spiritual giants, perfect people, meditate for hundreds of years. But come on, let's be a bit more realistic. The fact is that spirituality has always been evolving through the times, from the ancient times of India to today. And to forget the modern dimension, I think it's kind of very, very lacking on our part to do that. I mean, I have met, luckily, in my own life, I met some intensely spiritual people. I had a chance to meet my father's guru in Gujarat. Amazing spiritual giants. Yeah, so many spiritual people. And Ramakrishna Paramhans, Ramana Maharshi, Anand Mahima. It's all spiritual giants. And I think we have to keep this in mind. Look, it may look very wonderful, really polished, wow, superhuman in ancient times. That's well and good to get the message. But if we get stuck there, okay, maybe us, maybe our next generation, I can tell you within 3-4 generations, they couldn't be bothered. That's a fact. Even now, I know many children who say, oh yeah, so what? Especially the educated ones, they will not link to the idea of magic, all this magic stuff, superhuman. They are more grounded in reality. And they will say, look, I don't want to follow personality. I need some somebody who looks like me, somebody who's intense spiritual, but is somebody like me. That's where the modern giants come in. And I think we need to move on and we have to take this modern giants into account because they have so much to offer in in modern context. Nowadays, I mean, even now, the world is changing all the time. At the time of Vivekananda, we had, transport and different ideas. Science had moved so far ahead. So all this stuff is coming, and we're not looking at the modern giants. At some point, it'll be a big disjoint, I'm telling you. The young youth will say, look, okay, fine, with all the ancient guys, you're doing all this magical stuff, throwing discus, throwing these Prashupatastra and all these weapons, yeah? But they say, that's not really reality, is it? So at some point this will happen. So I think we better get the idea. We better learn that actually the modern giants are maybe perhaps more closer to our thinking, and we should try and link to them as well. Sitaben?
Yeah, no, I think you've covered it amazingly. I mean, the important thing to remember is that rather than sort of looking back at ancient Sanskrit texts and trying to sort of, understand it and make sense of it, why not look to somebody who is able to speak in your own language right here, right now? I mean, they may not be alive at the moment, people like Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna, Raman Maharshi, but we've got their teachings documented in English, and it's just the most wonderful resource for us because it's the same stuff that's being talked about in the ancient Sanskrit scriptures but in our own modern language. And it's a shame that it's not sort of we're not fully utilizing it. And I think Dad has mentioned previously that often it takes a long time for people to really truly appreciate and understand these spiritual giants. Even people like Ram and people like Krishna in their own time were not appreciated for the spiritual giants that they are today. It takes a long time for this to happen. And even Dad used to joke that sometimes Vivekananda isn't as appreciated as he should be, by the Indian population. And it's only going to be when the Westerners realize his value and turn him into blonde hair, blue eyes that we'll realize, oh, hang on, he's actually ours. So this is the thing. Sometimes we need validation from an outside source, which it shouldn't be like that. But unfortunately, that's the kind of mentality that we've got at the moment. And hopefully we can shift away from that and realize the true dynamic individuals who have come from the Indian subcontinent with these wonderful spiritual messages.
Wonderful answer there, Sitaben, Vijaybai. So as Sitaben mentioned, the spiritual giants are normally recognized in their own times. How can we recognize them if we are to meet someone like that, Sitaben?
Like what the sort of clearest sign that somebody is enlightened is the sort of language they use, their spiritual experience that they describe is something that's totally unique. It's never sort of come out in that way before, ever in the history of humanity. It's one of those unique personal spiritual experiences which, when they put it into words, it's sort of contextualized to the modern world and in a very different way to what it has been previously. I mean, possibly, in the next 100 years or whatever, we may come across another spiritual giant and they will word things in a very different way to what the previous spiritual giants have said and done. So that's probably the way to sort of realize that, hang on, there's something really special here. And another wonderful thing about our spiritual journey is that sometimes it's not that we need to go around knocking on doors looking for gurus. Sometimes when you are really spiritually ready, your guru will come knocking on your door. They'll say, come with me, follow this pathway. And we have to count ourselves lucky if we are ever in that kind of position. So whatever your heart tells you, I'm really drawn to this particular person, go with it, go with your heart, and that will hopefully guide you to making spiritual progress. Vijay?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, Manish Bhai. At one time I was reading about the life of Ramana Maharishi, and very interesting. This is somebody who has unconditional love for humanity, no conditions at all. Not only that, absolutely no connection with materialism. And they're very rare. I mean, one or two interesting stories from his life is that once, little boys came with marbles, and now he's like 60 years old, right? And they said, oh, can you play marbles with us? Go, yeah, let's play marbles. I'm so excited. Let's play marbles. And then some other time, little girls came with dolls and said, okay, can we get them married? He goes, yeah, nice. Let's get them married, right? Let's see. So, and then the way he plays with this, interacts with humanity, He's not actually interacting with humanity, he's actually interacting with the divine. He actually doesn't see them as humans. Lilith, he's playing little children, he actually sees them as spiritual beings. That's why he loses his focus. And if somebody from outside who doesn't understand this, what's wrong with this guy? Playing with little children, playing marbles. He should act his age. But see, somebody who's intense love for humanity, the whole life, Sita said, what they say is different. The way they behave, the way they see everybody else, the way they do is all totally different. And I think these are things that sometimes the Sita said, if you're not ready, you will not even see that. He said, what's wrong with this crazy guy? And he just walk away. I mean, same like, Ramakrishna Paramahansa. In many ways, it's good he sent Vivekananda out to America. Because he said, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, people understanding what's wrong with this man doing all this mystical stuff, right? So sometimes you have to be ready spiritual to understand spiritual giants as well. So it kind of works both ways. Yeah.
Wonderful answer, Rasita Ben Vijay. Next question is, there are many gurus and saints and sadhus operating even in India now, and we don't know which one of these are, good, actually enlightened person, and which one of them are charlatans, as Jai Bhai say many times, that 99% of them are charlatans. So how do we, is it not very risky to follow someone who's alive, and how do we judge if whether we should follow someone or not? Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, it's a very tough question because you're right. 99% of the gurus are all charlatans, right? They want to make money, and then I think there's one seat, especially they like to promote themselves a lot. They wear, good clothes. They try and do all these mantras and sit on a big high pedestal. So they look, oh wow, look at this. So the image and the aura, and now social media, there's so much hype that you really get attached to them. And it's a big challenge because I think it requires us to be of rational mind. We should always give rational faculties, ready in our head to really understand this. It was quite interesting once, Jai Bhai was talking about him, and we met somebody called Shri something. 3 Shris, not just one. And somebody asked Jai Bhai, okay, what is this 3 Shris? He goes, well, if it's 1 Shri, then he's somebody who is, revered person. If he's 2 Shris, then he's actually a god. If he's 3, then he's actually above God, right? So this is the kind of world we live in. So, but the thing is, look, a guru is somebody who will never ask you for anything, will only give you things. If he asks for something, go, why is he asking me? Or, if you come here, or if you want to be my guru, you must do this, or you must donate this. Or, if you want to be a guru, you must pray for 10 hours a day. No. A guru is someone who just gives, right? Doesn't want anything from you. But it's tough because sometimes you join a movement for a while, and by the time you realize you're totally brainwashed in this. So I think you really have to keep your faculties, in place. It's a tough choice. All I would say is that don't hesitate to leave a guru if you got the wrong one. Don't feel, oh, now I'm stuck to him. Oh, if I do something bad will happen to me, I get bad luck. Don't worry. Ultimately, you have to choose your own path. So choose the guru that actually suits you. It may take a while to find, and perhaps you may never find one. In that case, rely on the gurus who are recent gurus who have passed away, like spiritual giants, and use them as your guide. But don't get stuck on something just because you're desperate for a guru. Don't do that, yes. So it's a tough question. I would say only 1%, perhaps even less than that, are actually genuine gurus who really care about a spiritual well-being. All the others just want to increase the size of their flock. So you have to be very careful. Sita Ben?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's such a personal journey. You need to let your heart sort of help you make that decision for you, and it's not something that anyone can tell you, no, go this place, so you shouldn't follow this guy, you should follow this guy. You have to let your heart tell you what the right sort of prescription is for you. And it reminds me of what Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the different kinds of doctors you get that are similar to different kinds of spiritual teachers. So one kind of doctor will prescribe you medicine and then give you the prescription, but not really bother about checking whether you've taken the medicine or not. Or you get another kind of doctor who will sort of press you, please make sure you take your medicine, please make sure you take your medicine. But then the third doctor, which is probably the best doctor, is the one who will make sure he rams the medicine down your throat, make sure that you get better. So in a way, you need to find a spiritual guru who's really that keen to make sure that you are on the right path, on the right spiritual journey. And it's only your heart that can guide you to that kind of person.
Wonderful answer there, Sita Ben Vijay. We take one last question on this topic. As Jaybai mentioned, magic and miracles, as some gurus do claim to do magics and do wonderful stuff. Should we be wary of these people? And how do we know if they are doing actual miracles or is just playing some magic tricks? Sitabin?
Yeah, we have to be very sort of wary when there are people who are sort of trying to perform magical tricks and miracles. I mean, as we've said on previous discussions, the greatest miracle is that we are here and we're living the life that we are living now. So you don't need to sort of perform extra miracles to prove God or anything like that. The sort of important thing to remember is that sometimes while you're on your spiritual path and you are making progress, you do sort of develop these siddhis or these powers along the way, and they can be things like being able to read people's minds, being able to see into the future, seeing what's happening far away. All of these things start becoming possible. But the sort of health warning really given is that do not sort of indulge yourself by sort of doing these sort of miracles and these magical things, because that will divert your attention from your true spiritual focus. So you do gain these powers because you're gaining such control over your mind. You're able to sort of connect with the greater mind that everybody has, and you can sort of get these powers. But we have to be very careful not to sort of become a magician in the process. Make sure you continue on your spiritual journey. I mean, I'm sure people like Sri Ramakrishna, they had all of these amazing powers, but they never displayed it, because that's not the right path. That's literally just playing tricks to sort of satisfy people. And that's really not what spirituality is all about. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I would say if somebody does miracles, I don't think that's really the path to go for. Look, as I said, there's so many intentionally spiritual people out there who are genuinely spiritual, who live a very frugal life, a simple life, who are dedicated their lives to spiritual progress. The instant they show miracles, then you say, look, oh, come on. I mean, that's not what really we should go for. We should really go for somebody who can actually, just by looking at his life, spiritually charge us. We don't want to become somebody who goes, oh, look at this miracle, wonderful. No, we don't want to do that. Even somebody just by looking at him inspires us to be spiritual as well. So the key goal is to find somebody who's intensely spiritual, not somebody who does miracles or showing magical to promote themselves. That's, I think we should really try and stay away from that. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there, Vijay Bhai. Next question from Mehul Varambia. He's saying, are there any actual living gurus that have the same views as Vivekananda? Vijay Bhai?
I think there is a lot of people who use Vivekananda. I think I believe there was a survey taken about 10, 12 years ago in India, maybe longer. And they asked, who is the person who's influenced you the most? And you'd be surprised, Vivekananda came on the top, apparently, surprising enough. So there are a lot of people who are influenced by his views, because his views are quite generally grounded in today's world, the way we think, plus also reality. And his expression is quite rational in the way his thoughts are. So I suspect there are very many people, but I think perhaps the best people who go to his thoughts are the followers of the Ramakrishna mission. Ramakrishna mission, all the gurus today, they are basically grounded in Vivekananda's philosophy and work. So perhaps they will be the best ones as an example. But I think the ideas, more than the person, the ideas of Vivekananda are they're populated everywhere in India. So that's, in a way, is a good thing. So yes, there are, but I don't think there's any particular one. I would suggest the best way, if you want to ask, is perhaps go to the Ramakrishna mission in that one. Sita Ben?
Yeah, I agree with that. Not wanting to sound sort of sectarian or anything like that, but that's definitely, I think, the best place to go. And the sort of amazing thing is the world is such a huge place and the population is so vast. It's probably likely that there is somebody out there who is sort of enlightened at the moment, and it's possible that they just don't want anyone to know. Maybe they just want to keep it a very sort of personal journey, and we would never know. They come and go and we have no idea. It's just we're very lucky that we do have some modern spiritual giants who have sort of expressed their teachings, and it's been documented and it's put in writing for generations to come to sort of develop their spiritual knowledge from. So this is the thing, we just have to sort of try and discern for ourselves who we think is a spiritual giant in the modern age. Then there are many that come and go and we'd never even know their names, but we're lucky that we've got some very wonderful ones recently.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben. So if there are many spiritual giants out there, as you're saying, and most people don't come across any actually, or even if they come across, they are not able to recognize. Is it something we are lacking that we don't recognize these people, or do we need to be at a kind of a spiritual level where we would recognize them? Sitaben?
Yeah, I mean, I think you sort of find your spiritual level in the type of guru that sort of attracts you. Basically, the spiritual giant that attracts you is basically the level that you're at spiritually. And everyone is on a very different journey. Everyone is on a very different path. And when you sort of compare different prescriptions, they may seem very different when you sort of talk to other people who are on the same sort of journey. So yeah, it's very difficult to know. And when you are sort of truly enlightened, sometimes you just don't want any kind of drum beating. You don't want to make a big fuss. You don't want to sort of perform miracles or anything like that. You could just be walking right past them on the street and you would have no idea. And that person is going home and meditating and becoming enlightened. And how would we know? So, I mean, I just feel lucky that at least some of them have come forward and their teachings are documented, written down for us to learn from, essentially. So yeah, I think it's just a case of luck, and also your guru will find you eventually. Vijay bhai?
Yeah, I think Sita, you have kind of pretty much covered it. As Sita said, depending on the level of spirituality, you're bound to find a guru at that kind of level. But as I said, for a lot of people today who are quite rational in thought, it's quite difficult to find a guru who kind of, you feel that could take you next spiritual level. But all I suggest is just keep on trying until you get a guru who can help you on your spiritual journey. It may be you may not have, it may be successful, but just continue on your spiritual journey anyhow. That's all I can say on that. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there, Sitaben and Vijay bhai. So we got a Jacob asking, can the panel talk about Haidar Khan Babaji and Neem Karoli Baba? Jacob, we are not authorizing and we don't normally discuss about current and very recent people, just because we haven't come across them, and we do not know about them, so it's very hard for us to even talk about them, so we tend not to discuss it. So I think that is where we will stop on that. It's a personal thing, and we leave it to people to decide themselves what they want to do about these people. Next question. Okay, we will need to find one. Okay, an interesting question about Atman and reincarnation. Does Atman carry memories of past births? Sitaben?
Yes, so the Atman is pure and pristine and is sort of unaffected by all the sort of vagaries of the world. But sometimes we call it a Jivatman, so the Atman which is sort of residing in you, essentially, and living your life with you, kind of thing. And we say that your character and the sort of life impressions that you create do come with you in your next life. And that's why it's incredibly important to make sure we utilize our time on this earth to sort of build our character, make sure that we invest our time in character, not so much on material gains, such as, having a big bank account or a big house or whatever. And it's very easy to get carried away by doing things like that, and then sort of living your life and sort of realizing that none of that's going to come with you. What's going to actually come with you is your character, and that's going to hold your hand in your future lives. And I've done that wonderful story, but this story, which I won't go into again, but it talks about the importance of building character rather than focusing on material gain. And that's really what comes with you. That's why even in the same family, you get siblings, you get even twins who've got the same sort of genes, and they've got very, very different personalities. And surely it's not just down to the genes and it's not just down to the environment, because they're both sort of being brought up in the same environment. And Hinduism suggests that it's because they've come from different paths. They've lived very different lives previously. So one could be very quiet and peaceful, and one could be like making a racket and destroying things. So people are sort of come with their own sort of baggage from previous lives. Vijay bhai?
No, I think Sita, you have got it pretty well. I think the key difference is, as Sita mentioned, that you must distinguish between the Atman and the Jiva Atman. And that, if you keep that in mind, then I think it answers this question really. So yeah, nothing more to add. Perfectly covered. Yeah.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben. Okay, Dux Dogra is asking, how should I choose as whom should I choose as my guru? You want to have a quick answer on that, Sitaben?
Yeah, like we said, we can't endorse anybody. It's totally your decision, because it's your very own individual spiritual journey. So we're not here to say, go here, don't go here, don't go here. You have to sort of have a look and explore for yourself, empower yourself. Remember, you are spirit essentially, and you will reach out and you will find the right spiritual guru for you. So don't underestimate yourself. You will get there in the end. Vijay bhai?
I think that's it. That's all I can say. Sita, well covered. Yes, yeah. Just keep on trying. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Indo Brit is asking an interesting question, saying, if reincarnation is real, then how can it be proven scientifically? Vijay bhai?
Okay, look, this is a scientifically as it is today, as science is today, which based on empirical evidence, it cannot be proven. But we know that there have been so many examples where past lives have been remembered, documented pretty well. There's a lot of research going on at the moment. I think there's one professor in University of Virginia, I think Ian Stevenson. There's some others who are doing research on that. And they have some really good examples, solid examples on the idea of reincarnation. So we have the evidence out there, the proof that this is actually happening. But I think science still does not accept anything which is beyond the material. So I personally feel I think maybe my view, but I've learned from Jay Bhai as well, science needs to move on. They have to move and realize that there's something more than just the material. And that's something that science has to try and move. I think until it moves, we will not be able to answer these questions or questions on consciousness or anything else which is metaphysical. We will not reach that level until science is said. But I think science will have to, because kind of they're stuck at some point. They can't just keep on stuck at matter. They have to move at some point. So some scientists have mentioned this, like Werner Heisenberg, that the essence of all life is non-material. But it's just the whole scientific community has to move together. I mean, I have read some books by Brian Cox on science, or E equals to MC squared. All these scientific books I've read, quite interesting books. But they all come out at one level, that if you cannot be able to empirically, then we don't even want to consider, because they believe that we don't have the tools to consider anything extraordinary. They're not saying, it doesn't exist. They're saying it's beyond the realm of science, so we won't bother. So I think to prove scientifically, I think science needs to make a step as well. So that's what I think that the situation is at the moment. Sita Ben?
Yeah, I mean, there's this Professor Ian Stevenson who's done research at the University of Virginia, where he found over 3,000 case studies of children who are vividly able to recall their past lives. And because, for the last sort of hundreds of years, there have been archives and records of these things have been checked out as actually true. And what are the chances of a child just sort of muttering something and it actually having the same sort of records? It's just unbelievable. So even then, we are still very cautious in our approach. We say it suggests the possibility of reincarnation. We're not sort of drum beating and saying, this proves reincarnation. We have to be humble about it. But then again, people like David Hume also say that the best possible explanation for a link between one life and another is reincarnation. So we have to also bear that in mind as well. There is something metaphysical going on. There is something that carries forward from one life to another, and reincarnation provides the best possible fit that we can find at the moment.
Wonderful. So we have a question now from Saurabh Kulkarni, and I think if we can answer this question, then nothing else matters. The question is, what should we do to be happy always?
Vijay bhai?
Okay, this is a tricky one. Look, I would say that the biggest thing is, as I say, that I quote Buddhism here. there's a couple of things. One is give up desires, they say. I think the question is what kind of life you lead. Sometimes it's true, is how your mind, what do you want from life, basically? If you want too many things, then you're going to be disappointed. That won't happen. So the question is, the key thing is, what do you want from life? If you want the most basic things, then you'll be happy. So the same thing can be seen in different ways, right? Like, say, okay, look, I'm happy. If you're happy with the transport, like A to B, I just want to transport, then you're happy. You say, no, I want really posh transport, and you don't get it, then you'll be unhappy. So in effect, what is your want and need in this life? If you want to have I guess the best way to say, I want to progress spiritually, I want to know who I am. If you try and answer that question, then perhaps it'd be a better way to find happiness. But the key thing is the material drive we have is perhaps the biggest issue in happiness, because not only that, even if you sometimes try and find this material lifestyle that we have, the world is not going to leave you alone. They're going to try and fight to make you buy things and make you feel that you're lacking. Have you noticed that when you go out on the road somewhere, you see an ad on the TV as well? You buy something, oh, there's a new TV now, 8K or something. Not 4K now, is 8K. Then you feel, oh, I'm lacking now, yes? You buy one car, there's another car which is, I don't know, does automatic parking. I'm lacking something. So the economy is driven to make you lack
It happens
something.
every time I buy an iPhone.
Yeah, so same thing. So the thing is, the economy is such that, ironically, the economy is driven on the basis of us feeling that we lack something. And sometimes, so we always have this lacking in us, and that can also lead to kind of unhappiness. So it's really a mental challenge for us to try and fight that, to fight these desires and fight these wants and needs. And perhaps that's one way of trying to come this. And that's why, I really admire, I'm not a Buddhist, but, somebody who can leave an entire person, walk out and say, bye-bye everything. And I want to just go out and do none of these. That's a big challenge. I mean, I can't even give up I can't give up my little Sony phone. Forget giving up everything else, right? So it's a tricky one. But I think true happiness comes from realizing what your true aim in the world is. Is it gathering wealth, or is it trying to find your true nature and go on a spiritual journey? If you can figure that question out, what is your true aim in life? And it's not material gathering, then I think in the right path. But it's on an individual's choice, I guess. But Chita, man.
Yeah, no, I think you've covered it amazingly. I think one thing which helps to sort of put things into perspective is distinguishing between happiness and bliss. Because happiness is something you derive from the material world. You have an ice cream when you have fun, and that's happiness. But then your ice cream is gone, or it's always very temporary. Suppose you buy a new house or you go on a nice holiday. You have that sort of buzz to start with. Oh, wow, I've got a lovely view from my house. But then how many 50 times, 100 times would you still get that same buzz? Probably it will start fizzling away. So the happiness you get from the material world is always temporary, and it's always followed by some kind of dissatisfaction or unhappiness. And we can't carry on living our lives trying to chase after material happiness. So we have to sort of remember that ultimately the sort of our life force, the thing that's driving us, is sort of spiritual bliss, essentially. And you have to keep sort of sipping from that bliss by doing things which make you feel sort of more connected with your true self. So, your true spiritual self, like art or music or meditation or whatever it is. But that sort of moment where you're like, oh, I feel so engrossed in that activity, and 3 hours have gone, and you're like, wow, I don't actually feel, sort of disappointed that it's over. I feel charged up as a result. So try and find those activities that make you feel charged up. Like, for example, with Dad, it was talking to school children, talking to university students. He came away feeling charged up because that was how he connected with his true spiritual nature. So you have to find what it is for you that charges you up, rather than leaving you feeling deflated and everything is over.
Yes, fabulous. So, folks, we are almost 2/3 of the way through today's broadcast. And I must say, I really appreciate the amount of questions and the comments and the thoughts you guys have shared with us, both on Facebook and on YouTube. It's amazing to see the variety of questions and the thirst for knowledge that people have online. And I asked people where they're watching us from, and it's also very interesting to see that we reach, very, very many places around the world with this broadcast. So we've got two questions from similar kind of questions from two different people. One is from Daksh Dogra, and his question is that I am a teenager, and if I want to go on a spiritual journey when I grow up, Is it wrong to leave my responsibilities connected with the people around me and my current karma? And the second one is from Adarsh, and it is a similar question. Is I lived with my mother. My father died a long time ago. I have a spiritual inclination from a young age. Should I pursue this path towards enlightenment all alone, or will it be selfish? It's an interesting topic to explore. I'm sure there are lots of people around the world in the same position. And so if we can have a quick discussion on this, I'm sure it'll help a lot of people.
Vijay bhai?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. That's true, actually. But I think I would say for the case where you said you live with your mom, why don't you both work together towards spirituality? I think it's right. It's true that, I mean, if you're in the, especially in the Grahastha ashram, people have responsibilities. And I would suggest that if you have to try and first make sure somebody is catered for, cared for, before you go on a spiritual journey. So if you're a teenager, then I think most likely, depending on how many responsibilities you have, if you can arrange for that or cater for that, then you can free yourself. Look, okay, I've catered for that, I've arranged for that. Now let me go. I know some people like who have responsibility for their parents or something. They will work hard for 10 years and maybe enough money for their parents. Okay, now I'm going to go for 2-3 years on a spiritual journey. So I think you'll have to technically, in a way, work for both. You can't really avoid your responsibility as well. If you're a teenager, perhaps you're more lucky. But if you're in the Grahastha caring for your parents, then also you need to do so. But look, you don't have to go on a journey or a spiritual journey out there. You can also be very spiritual in-house as well. So you can look after your parents and also be very intensely spiritual. There's this belief that, look, even I would love to go to India and visit, all this beautiful Kedar, Badri, and what. I haven't been there yet because I have responsibilities too. But then I say, okay, look, perhaps I can do it on YouTube. So I try and compensate like that because I have responsibilities. But hopefully someday I'll go with my parent and my mother as well on a spiritual journey. So either go both of you, but you have to balance it basically. You can't just get rid of one and hope to get the other. So keep a balance and try and make the best you can of your circumstances. Sita Ben?
Yeah, it's a very difficult sort of balance to sort of manage your material sort of requirements and needs of your family, as well as trying to make spiritual progress and keep your focus in that. And the way that you can do that is obviously make sure that your loved ones are looked after and cared for. That's essentially spiritual living in itself. Looking after the needs of those around you is essentially a spiritual life. So don't sort of underestimate yourself. Don't think that I'm not following a spiritual path. Caring for others is a spiritual activity, so treat it as such. But then again, the Hinduism does offer this ashram system, as Vijay Bhai touched on, this idea that, you move from the student stage to the Grahastha ashram, where, you are sort of bearing the responsibility of society, the family, the community, all of that. And you have to treat that as a spiritual activity as well. The important thing to remember is just to make sure that you don't get attached to all the sort of, the money and the property and the cars and whatever it is. Make sure you remain detached. Sort of, however you want to do it, by repeating the name of God, by meditating, taking time out, just taking a pause from the sort of rush of your life, and sort of focusing on spirituality will keep you immune in a way from all the sort of attachments that are sort of surrounding you. So you can live a very spiritual life, even though you're living for others around you.
This is the beauty of Hinduism, I suppose, that, there are so many options to progress spiritually. You do not have to do the traditional things that you may be expected to do, like, reading the scriptures and being knowledgeable about them, etc. There are many ways to progress spiritually. Like Jeba used to say, sometimes even music or art could be anything that gives you one pointed focus can help you move forward in your spiritual progress. So that's really a good way of thinking about it. I have a couple of other questions. SB is asking, what is the purpose of mantras?
Yeah, so I think the mantras actually are in many ways important. You may sometimes just feel, oh, it's just chanting some words, in some cryptic language like Sanskrit. But if you do it genuinely, then actually they do help you focus. And sometimes, I've been told many times, oh, these old people just keep on saying the same name of God again and again, they just chant names and do Mara. What's the point, right? Just it's very monotonous and boring. But actually, if you focus, it's a means of focusing your mind. So mantras are very important. They're also used not only by Hindus, you'd be surprised, even like Tibetan traditions of Buddhism. So there are many people who use mantras as a means to focus and cleanse the mind. Look, The fact is that every day we have so many thoughts in our mind rushing in and out. If you focus on the mantra, then in a way it clears your mind of everything else. You only focus on the mantra. So in a way, like taking mantra is not different from yoga. Okay, in the mantra you're saying something. In yoga, trying to kind of clear your mind of all the extra, stuff which kind of just keeps on your mind running, like, or modifying your mind all the time. So mantras in this are very important, but do it in such a way that it actually makes you peaceful, enlightened, and makes you feel genuinely makes you feel, oh, I feel spiritually charged. Then the mantra has an effect. If you're just doing something because somebody told you to do, and you say, oh, I have to do it every day, then it's not. Then it won't do do its job. So mantras are important if they're done properly and correctly to help you focus and to progress spiritually. Sita Ben?
Yeah, no, I think you've covered it amazingly. So I think the importance of mantras is sort of try and sort of embed it into a small ritual. It doesn't need to be anything big, where, you just take a pause from your everyday life and you use that mantra to sort of think about God, focus all your attention on God. And it will help you. It will help you during difficult times, especially, when you're going through all sorts of troubles that life brings for you. Just that mantra will actually hold your hand. And I've found that from personal experience as well. It really does hold your hand. And I've actually started asking my daughter every time she goes to bed, I say, make sure you chant this 3 times. And she does it and she goes to sleep. And it's just become a habit. So whenever you're sort of at that point, that's your strength, essentially, to have that mantra. Just whatever it is, it doesn't even need to be Sanskrit. It could be, something empowering like love or compassion or whatever, anything that makes you feel charged up, essentially. So mantras have a great value. And the wonderful thing is, it's like through this constant remembrance, it's like handling a flower. If you constantly handle the flower, you'll get the sweet scent of God on your hands. So there's a real benefit to mantras for sure.
Amazing. I also believe there are, mantras carry a certain sound vibration with them. And that, I believe, as a way of affecting ourselves and surroundings around us as well. It's the things that maybe we don't understand yet fully, but I'm sure we can feel the impact of the changes. So that's a great topic to explore. The next question I have is from Adityan over on YouTube, and he's asking the question, what is the role of animal sacrifice in Hinduism? We don't do that anymore.
So I think it's very rare now, but they may be happening in some parts. I think maybe in some hilly parts of India, perhaps. But I think the idea was initially that to offer something living. The idea is if it was something dead, then it is not seen as powerful as something living. But I think by and large, don't forget that India is very broad. It's a very broad culture and tradition, and also Hinduism itself is very broad. And basically, remember the word Hinduism comes from the idea that it actually is a collection of all the different beliefs and variation of tradition of all Indian subcontinent. And it's all being clubbed into one. So of course, you're going to find some really old place where this happens even now. But in ancient times, perhaps more so. But today, it's not as much today. So I think the idea people have now moved on and realized actually sacrificing something living is not a nice way to progress spiritually. So it's a good step forward. But I think by and large, it's the idea of giving something living than something dead. But it's not being followed as much today. So yeah, in a way, it's good we have moved forward. Sita Ben?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, animal sacrifice isn't something sort of unique to the Indian subcontinent. It's something that was practiced around the world. And I think it's just a progression of human thinking, is that initially we thought this is the way that we can appease a god, by giving something that's very precious and valuable to us, something that we could use to eat, but we're going to offer it to God. That's how they were thinking. But now humanity has evolved and we've realized that taking life is not the way to really make spiritual progress. So our thinking has evolved. And I think these kind of practices are happening less and less, especially now with all of this awareness of the cruelty that animals face for consumption, for example. This idea will definitely start to fizzle away.
Fantastic. So that's sort of, Vijay, your answer sort of answers another question from Rahul. So he was asking that why do people say that Hinduism is the only Indian culture? It's not really, but it's just the most popular one, I suppose, right? So the answer is it's just that it's all encompassing. It covers a wide area in India. That's why it's seen as the leading sort of way of life. We have a question from Charmaine. who tunes in from South Africa every week. And she's asking that why do most Hindus in India why are they fixated on Western culture when most of the people and Hindus around the world are so much in awe of India, the Hindu culture, and its value to science, medicine, the mind, etc.?
It's really a sad situation, but Shaman, you're absolutely right, because I guess maybe subjugation of India for over 1,000 years, and they haven't realized the value of their own culture. And sometimes, it's sad that I guess Hindus out have already seen and experienced Western culture, and say, hold on a minute, is this any better than Hindus? And then maybe they realize, oh, actually, the gems that we have in India or from our ancestors are perhaps far more value than perhaps the Western culture. So we have kind of picked it up. Maybe India is going through a material journey, and perhaps they'll come out of it and realize the true gems that they have. But yeah, it's really a pity that this is the situation. I mean, I think they call it the pizza effect. I remember it's same with the pizzas, that when they went to in America, they became so popular. In Italy, you're seen as poor man's food. You just make a piece of bread and throw the yesterday's vegetable or food on top of it, whatever you had, lumps of vegetable or meat, and you just cook it as poor man's food. But now it's come back to Italy and the West, because wow, it's amazing pizzas. So sometimes I guess it has to go out of India and then be told back, look, you guys have got something amazing. And they go, do we really? Yeah. Oh, wow, amazing. Let's come realize our true, culture again. But yeah, it's really sad. And I tell you something else I've noticed as well, which is when you go to India sometimes, when somebody comes from the West, especially the fair skinned or light or, English or, and they treat them differently than Indians. And that is, sorry to say, it's really pathetic, but you see that. And I think Indians still suffer from this thing called passive, colonialism. They're going to get over this. It may not be in action now, but the passiveness of this colonial attitude is still there. And then to realize, stand on your own feet and see the glory of your own tradition and culture, which is Sanatana Dharma. I have a very positive feeling India will reach there. But let's see. Sita Ben.
Oh yeah, no, I think you basically covered it. It's just very unfortunate that, we have got this sort of very subservient attitude to ourselves. We just think that we're not quite as good as the Westerner, which is a very unfortunate way of thinking, unfortunately. And it takes a long time for mindsets to change, because as Vijay Bhai said, we have been conquered for hundreds of thousands of years, and that mindset sort of seeps into the population, and it takes a long time for attitudes to change. I mean, similarly to things like racism, gender equality, it takes a long time for the general mindset to change, and hopefully, things will continue to improve. I mean, India is coming up as a very strong economic power as well, and the sort of Indian sort of contribution to the world is being recognized, and hopefully that will sort of boost the confidence of the Indian population to realize that there is something special here. And especially in the sphere of spirituality, we've got so much to offer to the world, and there is a real need for it. So let's hope that we can sort of be proud of it and recognize it for what it is.
Wonderful answer, Sita and Vijay Bhai. Next question we take from Son H. It's asked a very interesting question. He's saying, I have a nephew born with intellectual disabilities. How does Atman, this concept of Atman and reincarnation relate to disability? And I would add another question to it. How should we deal with disabled people in general? Sita?
Yeah, so it's very unfortunate that sometimes the reincarnation and law of karma is misinterpreted and misunderstood. And it's very easy for people to sort of take the attitude that, oh, this person must have done something bad in their previous life for them to then be living with a disability in the current life. And that's a completely terrible way of thinking, because it makes you think so badly about people who are going through a very difficult time. What we have to remember is reincarnation and law of karma is a very complex situation. There are so many hundreds of thousands of factors which come together for a life to be given, somebody to be born. And it's not just a simple black and white, this caused this, so this is the reason why this happened. It's just very sort of, life is messy, life is complicated, and you can't blame anyone or anything for any particular circumstance or situation. This is just the way the cookie crumbles, and we have to make sure that anybody who is disabled is given equal validity. They are equal manifestations of spirit, and we have to make sure that they are given full dignity in that respect. Vijay bhai?
Yeah, I think Sita, you covered it pretty well. One thing to keep in mind is that, look, it doesn't matter. I think sometimes because we have this so many, we sometimes feel that we're going to fit in the norms of society. The society doesn't accept us. I think therein lies the problem. I think society itself should evolve. Look, the fact is, look, we're all different. Even as people who so-called normal are also all very different. And look, even the idea of evolution is not perfect. I mean, everybody has some sort of something they're lacking. If you say hearing, eyesight, it's all that. If you accept that, look, everybody's different, but everybody has to have equal dignity and respect, and don't ever feel disheartened that, okay, there's somebody disabled, but oh, at least, as I like the idea of what is differently able, some people say that everybody's different, and work from that and try and make the best decision that you have and try and work towards happiness. The thing is, don't try and compete and say, I have to be like somebody else because society is different. No, we are all different and we all have different abilities and capabilities. So we should all work together and accept that we're all equal in that sense. That's the best way to look at it. Yeah. Manish.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben Vijay. We take a few quick fire question, rapid fire. So be ready. Please try to answer it within a minute. First question for Vijay Bhai. Can you give suggest a book on Upanishad, that comprehensive book on Upanishads?
Okay, the ones I use are from the Advaita Ashram, yes, which I got them from Advaita Ashram. So I think there are quite a few on the internet, but that's the copies I have. That's all I can say. Yes, you can type in Advaita Ashram and get physical copies if you need to. Yeah.
Okay. Second question for Sitaben. Anurag is asking, why is cow leather used in cricket ball?
Well, sorry, cow leather. Oh, yes. I mean, Hindus do really revere the cow. I mean, it's a very sacred animal because it keeps giving us such wonderful nourishment, and it's considered to be elevated to the level of the divine. And hopefully, the poor cow was not sort of hurt in the process. Maybe if the cow had passed away and then that leather was used, I guess that's okay. But yeah, hopefully it wasn't given any pain to make the ball.
Wonderful answer. Vijay Bhai, next question from you. He is asking, what's your thought on Vedic astrology?
I don't understand it, I'll be honest with you, but I know it's part of the 6 Vedangas. Jyotishri is a very big part of Vedas. Look, I do know that everything in this world is interconnected. At the divine level, spiritual level, we all connect to each other. But if we try and use that to guide our lives, then I think you should be very careful, because stand on your own feet. And if you struggle something, if you have some challenge in your life, take them head on. Don't rely on the stars of Jyotishri. That's all I can say on that. So be your own man. Use your own astrology. Be your own strength to move forward. Don't rely on, astrology. That's all I can say. But I don't understand it fully, but I know it's a major topic, study of the Vedic scriptures. Yeah.
Great answer, Vijay Bhai. Next question for Sitaben. Why is Hinduism not spreading like other Abrahamic religions? Mallikarjuna is asking.
I mean, I guess one answer could be that we don't go out and convert people. We are very peaceful in that sense. We'd like to sort of let our ideas spread naturally, let people just feel inspired and take them up and make them their own. And the wonderful thing about Hinduism is we're not here to rubber stamp anybody as Hindu or not Hindu. Just as long as you imbibe these wonderful spiritual teachings, then you're living a full and enriched life.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben. Next question for Vijay Bhai. He is asking, what are Hindu philosophy on the growing influence of communism? So he's talking about communism. There seems to be spread of communism in India now, and they are threatening the Hindu ways of life and some of our culture in a way. What is Hindu view on those communism?
Okay. So, from what I read about communism, it sounds idealistic, it sounds very good, but in practical it's very bad, because The ideal is that everybody is given equal respect. It's kind of egalitarian society. That was the aim of Karl Marx, to get egalitarian, where everybody gets equal, opportunities, equal kind of support materially. But practically, it doesn't work because humans want to endeavor to do better than others. They want to get more than others. So practically, it just doesn't work. But I think the communism in India is actually not even that. It's purely a political ploy. And their hatred is for some reason towards Hinduism more than other religions. And I think this is something that's grown over time from the pre-independence, has just grown and grown. I find it very strange. Mind India is very unique in that sense because communism is not really growing in other parts of the world. But India is a bit of a strange place in that sense. But I would say India is purely political. They do not care about the idea that they claim that if we care about dignity or respect for everybody. That's not the aim. So don't even think of that communism as the idea of creating a genuinely equal society. So that's what I can say on that. Yeah.
Nishit bhai, do you want to comment now, please?
Fabulous. So that's a great way of moving ahead. Bear with me one moment. Yeah, it's a great way of looking at things. And we are up at the end of the hour, so we're going to close the broadcast very soon. Before we do that, I'd like to share some of the resources that we've got available for the viewers. So we've had a number of viewers like Jacob, for example, who've been asking questions that are the sort of basic foundational questions that we've got. And I would encourage you to go to our Basics of Hinduism course. It's on this website, hindu-academy.coachzippy.com. And you can see over 7,100 students are enrolled in that. You can also go to our website, hindu-academy.com. There's an ebook here that you can download or view online. That will give you some of the details as well about Hinduism. And you can also help us by following us on Twitter, where this live stream is also being broadcast. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, do check out some of our tweets on Twitter as well. Over on YouTube, we got a number of playlists that you can look at. So there is various topics you can have a look at, and this also will help answer some of the questions that you may have. And now, finally, I'd like to end with a quote. And as always, I have a quote from Swami Vivekananda. Today's quote is this, that we are what our thoughts have made us. So take care about what you think. Words are secondary, thoughts live, they travel far. So I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead, and we look forward to seeing you all on the broadcast next week on Saturday at 2 o'clock UK time. Bye-bye for now. Just gonna have to see how to stop this.